Now the part that is, I would say, fairly stressful for most people, and that's when you find the property and you're ready to make an offer and a negotiation is going to begin. But let's just start with, first of all, what should we be putting on the offer? This is where somebody that really knows what they're doing to give you the right guidance can help you with what kind of conditions we should be putting on the offer to protect your interests and what kind of terms should be in that offer. And I can tell you from all the years I've done this, there are no two real estate transactions the same. They are all different. They all have different situations and different things to, I would say, different hurdles to overcome and certain pitfalls to be aware of. Now, on the real estate purchase contract that we use in Alberta, we have what we call typical conditions that a buyer might put on. Home inspection, condominium document review if it's a condo, financing. So those are built into the offer and they're typical. And of course, we recommend those as conditions. Although there are times where we've seen people in multiple offer situations and the buyer was comfortable not putting in any conditions or maybe scaling it back to only one or two conditions. It's our job to really go through and help you understand the pros and the cons of which conditions to put on and which ones not. When it comes to terms, this is an important part of the contract because there may be some things that we want the seller to do on or before possession day. Maybe we've identified that a stove isn't working and we want it fixed, or maybe we notice that there's a small leak next to the furnace and we want that repaired. We would put that as terms and we would have to structure the language very carefully to ensure that the seller honors the agreement of the term and gets that done on time. And that's why I said to you, every single transaction is a little bit different. Now, you're also going to need some advice on pricing. You're going to look very carefully. I would say probably the biggest concern every buyer would have is, number one, I don't want to pay too much for the property, and B, I definitely don't want to move in and find out something about the property that's negative before I move in there. And that really is where a good real estate agent comes in, is to protect your interests. I would have to say, aside from finding you the right home, equally part of our job is to make sure there's no negative surprises at the end. And that's why we have to look at absolutely every possible scenario for you and make sure that we don't have any negative surprises. Now, as far as pricing goes, we have access to what has recently sold. If you're buying in a certain community, we can take a look at some of the recent comparable homes. Now, real estate's not black and white. There's some areas in the city that are, homes are really, really similar. If you took a new development and, recent sales in that new development, really, really similar to yours, it's a lot easier to understand what the value is. But also there's older neighborhoods that you don't have the same home to compare it to. You're looking at something in the same community, but can be a very different home. So it's not black and white when it comes to pricing, but it's important for you to see just what the overall market is doing. What are these similar homes selling for? We can take a good look at their photos. We can even drive by them, get a good sense of where the pricing should be, and be sure that the asking price is comfortable for you. And of course, the next thing is negotiating all of that. So when we structure an offer, we put in the price you want, the possession you want, the terms you want, the conditions you want. Well, obviously that might not necessarily be agreeable to the seller, and a negotiation is going to ensue. And I can tell you from a lot of experience in doing this, everyone negotiates a different way. Sometimes people can negotiate quickly and really come to a resolution fast. I've also seen people really take a lot of time. I've had negotiations go on sometimes for 2 weeks, and I've had some go on for 2 hours. So it is very different. But one thing I can tell you for certain though, is that emotions get fairly high when you get into the negotiation. There's a lot of feelings around that. And that's something that as a good real estate professional, we have to manage. People do have filters that they look at things through. The buyer has their filter that they see it through. The seller has their filter. And to make a negotiation successful, you have to work within these filters. We have to help both sides maybe see things slightly different, or at least help them see the big picture sometimes. You got to remember, two different people looking at things two different ways have to come together. And the other thing not to forget, typically there are 6 people in a negotiation. You've got 2 buyers oftentimes, two sellers oftentimes, and then you've got the seller's real estate professional and you've got the buyer's real estate professional. So 6 people are trying to come together on a contract, all looking at things a little different, all having their 2 cents worth as to, you know, what should be on the contract, what shouldn't be on the contract. So you can see why the negotiations are a big part of this. And I want you to know, my team is trained better than most. We spend a lot of time on negotiating contracts properly. We have been well trained. Even to this day, I continually taking training from coaches that are very, very good at negotiation. And I can tell you with certainty over the years, I've developed a lot of skill in this myself. I've done it a lot. So we've learned a lot along the way, and that's all for the benefit of representing our clients properly so that we can come out the other side with favorable terms and conditions on that contract that work for you. And I can make a commitment to you of 100%. Most of the time when I get a client at the end of the transaction working with me and my team, and that's the one thing that usually stands out, they say, you know, they really felt like we did a great job negotiating on their behalf. And maybe they didn't always get everything that they were looking for, but they really felt like we did an amazing job of trying hard to get all of those terms and conditions and price the way that they wanted it to be. So it's a big part of this, of what you're going to do in buying a property. I can't stress enough, make sure when it comes to the negotiations that you understand all of the aspects of it, and I can promise you you'll make some good decisions. And working with us, I can promise you a very good outcome when it comes to the negotiation side of this business.